Hey everyone. Welcome to episode 10 with Dr. Kelly Bulkeley. This is the first episode that focuses primarily on dreams, and I'm so excited I had the chance to speak with Kelly because I only know him from reading his book, The Scribes of Sleep: Insights from the Most Important Dream Journals in History. This book touched me so much that when I thought about the dream researchers and dream tenders who I want to meet at the through line, he immediately came to mind. Before I get started, I just want to say the headphones I usually use to record the episodes broke. They actually broke a while ago, and I've taped one of the earmuffs back together. But overall, they're broken, and that's sad. So I bought some new headphones that aren't the best quality, in my opinion, and I used them to record the intro for episode 9, but the intro sounds muffled to me, so I think I might re-record that at some point. And yeah, I just feel a bit frustrated about that, and I'm working on getting new headphones because I care about sound quality and just wanted to let you know what's going on for me behind the scene. All right, let's get into the episode. I learned about Dr. Bulkeley's work in a really cool way. Have you, dear listeners, listened to episode 6, What a Poet Reflects Back, The Power of Language and the Oracular Arts with Cherise Francis? I definitely encourage you to check it out as it's linked to this episode in an interesting way. It was a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago, I can't remember, when Cherise posted on her Instagram feed about researching the life of Benjamin Banneker and coming across his dream journal. I had no idea he kept a dream journal, so I looked it up, and in my Google search, I found Dr. Bulkeley's book, The Scribes of Sleep: Insights from the Most Important Dream Journals in History. I knew I had to read this book. Eventually, I got it and started reading it last year, and wow, it's one of my favorite books for several reasons. One, because of how dreams and recording their dreams is something all the dreamers in this book, who are from different walks of life, have in common. If there was more time in the intro, because I'm trying to shorten the intros, I would read dreams from each person Kelly highlights, but I encourage you to read their dreams for yourself, too. It's so interesting what hardly or ever crosses your mind until you learn about it. The fact that we can still read dream journals from people across space-time is amazing. Like, that wasn't even a thought in my mind. Had no clue about, dream journals across time until I saw Sharice's post, which led me to Kelly's book. I can only imagine what other dream journals exist out there. And 3, reading this book has strengthened my personal practice of recording my dreams. I am the scribe of my own dreams, and maybe you're the scribe of your own dreams. I mostly use the voice recorder app on my phone to record my dreams. Yeah, I love that method. I'll wake up, be half asleep, and uh, record my dream. It's like getting the dream fresh, you know? And it's so interesting. Sometimes I'll be like, no, I'll be half asleep. I'll be like, no, no, no. Like, I don't know what's going on, but I'll be like, oh no, I'll remember. And I don't remember my dreams. Well, so the thing is, I actually don't remember many of my dreams. So when I do remember my dreams, I feel like I'm supposed to, and that I'm getting a message or some kind of communication. Um, what was I gonna say? Just I just lost it. But that's all to say that sometimes I feel like I've been really consistent with, using my voice recorder app to record my phones, but there's some times where I'm like, no, 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 I'll remember. And I never, like, I don't remember. Maybe I'll remember one detail of a dream and I'll record it later. But I always think that's so funny. I'm always like, yeah, no, I'm gonna remember. No, I'm not. Anyway, the remembering part of dreams is also really interesting. And the dream memories that people carry, after the dream. It's 5 years later, and I had a powerful dream in 2020, and it's it's a dream that I had, but it's also a dream memory because I still remember that dream from 5 years ago. All right, I kind of meandered a little bit, but yeah, I use the voice recorder app on my phone to record my dreams. Sometimes I write my dreams down in my homemade dream journals, and many times share my dreams out loud with friends, family, coworkers, in a dream circle. And maybe dream sharing in this way is also a form of recording dreams. Now for Kelly's bio. Kelly Bulkeley, PhD, is a dream researcher and author with a background in the psychology of religion. He is director of the Sleep and Dream Database, a senior editor of the APA journal Dreaming, and a former president of the International Association for the Study of Dreams. He earned a BA at Stanford University, an MTS at Harvard Divinity School, and a PhD from the University of Chicago Divinity School. He is author and editor of several books, including The Wilderness of Dreams, An Introduction to the Psychology of Dreaming, Dreaming Beyond Death, American Dreamers, Dreaming in the World's Religions, Lucid Dreaming, Big Dreams, The Science of Dreaming and the Origins of Religion, and Lucretia the Dreamer, Prophecy, Cognitive Science, and the Spanish Inquisition. He has 3 books that will be published in 2023, which passed: The Scribes of Sleep, Insights from the Most Important Dream Journals in History, 2020 Dreams, and The Spirituality of Dreaming. He lives in Portland, Oregon. He has a longer bio on his website that I recommend you check out, where he shares more about his journey becoming a dream researcher. Shout out to the dream researchers out there, the dream tenders, the dream workers, the dream weavers, all of y'all. Shout out to you. Some reflections from this episode. What are people dreaming about in different places? At the beginning of the episode, I share with Kelly that I notice where I sleep often impacts how I dream. For example, I dream a lot when I'm near water, and surprisingly, even though I prefer living in New Mexico instead of Arizona whenever I'm in the Southwest, I dream more and remember my dreams more when I'm in Arizona. And I think that's hilarious. I just think that's hilarious. And that's my dream life, where like I'll assume something or I'll think something's going to happen and the complete opposite happens. I just think that's so funny. Like, the place that has my heart, New Mexico, is the place that I don't dream so much. Like, I don't dream as much as I do when I'm in Arizona. And you know, um, I was never connected to my dreams like this. I actually felt really disconnected from the dream world, and it was, I don't know, 2021. I can't remember the year, but I realized this and I wanted to connect to my dream time because I realized I'm disconnected. That's how I personally felt. And I mean, if I had been connected to dreams while I grew up in New York City and lived there late into, into my late 20s, I wonder about my dream life. There's, like I told you, that powerful dream I had in 2020. I actually had another powerful dream that same year. Um, yeah, but for the most part, I don't know, sometimes I find dreams that I wrote in old journals, but it just seems like my dream life really started coming alive um, when I was in this strange transition period of leaving New York City, which was a whole thing, and coming out to the Southwest. It's a whole long story. I I would have never saw myself in this part of the country. I It's a long story. I feel like I'm starting to meander, but it just to go back to how like there's a lot of surprising, unexpected things in my dream life. Like I'll think I'll go to a place and I'm gonna have these amazing dreams, these, epic dreams, and that doesn't happen. And then I'll be in some like ordinary, I don't know, just everyday kind of situation, and I'm just having all these dreams. It's really interesting. And so, getting back to what I was saying, Kelly tells me he had a powerful, I feel like I can't even say powerful, powerful, powerful. Okay. He tells me he had a powerful dream involving his father when he traveled to Soviet Russia in the early 90s, if I remember that right, for a dream conference. And we got to talking about the relationship between place and dreams. I've always wondered what might the dreamscape be like in the Colorado River Basin in the Southwest. And after spending a few months in New Mexico recently, I'm definitely curious about the dreams of the people living on those lands. Like I said before, I used to live in New York City, and maybe I'll get back there. I don't know. And I'm curious about the dreams of people in the city, even in each borough. I'm curious about the dreams of islanders, people who live on islands across the world, and the dreams of people who live and work on boats for a living, because that's a whole other life. A whole other life. Essentially, what we are getting at is, what are people, say, in the Torres Strait Islands dreaming about? What about folks in Senegal? What are people in China, Mongolia, or the Philippines dreaming about? So much to explore with this topic. Lucretia de Leon and prophetic dreams. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm fascinated by each dreamer Kelly writes about in the Scribes of Sleep. I'm especially interested in Lucretia the Dreamer because she was a young prophetic dreamer who, instead of being respected and treated well during her time, was criminalized and imprisoned because of her gift of prophecy. Lucretia captures my imagination because her dreaming life was so clearly connected to larger political happenings. Imagine living your life, minding your business, going to sleep as people have done for thousands and thousands of years, and waking up the next morning knowing how things are going to play out politically in the society and context you live in. What would you do if you were Lucretia the Dreamer? She's a real person. And I know there have been other prophetic dreamers across time, place, and culture. And, I don't have any evidence to like whip out right now in this moment, but I believe today there are prophetic dreamers. They're across the world, wherever they're at. There are people who are they're prophetic dreamers. Which brings me to my next point. I do think people, in general, to certain extents, dream about things before they happen. Um, I feel like people do this in general. Like if you don't do this often, but suddenly you had a dream or two where you dreamt about something before it happened, or prophecy by way of dreams could run through your line. And I hope for people listening out there, if there's anyone who experiences this, to stop and pay attention and give this experience, yeah, some attention and maybe curiosity. Um, I don't know. I just feel like there's so much in our lineages that we've inherited. The good, the bad, the ugly. I'm specifically talking about different types of gifts and abilities. And I don't know, sometimes I feel like, based on my own personal lived experiences, that they're they're not seeing these gifts, abilities, ways of understanding the world, tending to plants, all the things. It's like they're not recognized as being passed down, and that inheritance is not. Sometimes I just feel like, yeah, in my own experience, it just feels like different kinds of inheritances aren't recognized, and so they aren't valued or appreciated. And so, I just, yeah, I just feel like it's like a plant, where if you water a plant and the plant gets sunshine and you sing to the plant and you take care of the plant, that the plant is going to be different than a plant that, is kind of just sitting there, doesn't get any attention. Maybe the plant is neglected, and maybe the plant flowers, but no one notices. And I don't know if what I'm saying is making sense, but and some people need that. Some people have might not have any family to turn to or mentors to recognize what their gifts, abilities, ways of understanding the world, what they've inherited. And yeah, I don't have any answers. I just wanted to say that, and to say prophecy is such a big word. Are you a prophetic dreamer if you dream about getting a promotion at work and then it actually happens the next week? Or you dream about running into a childhood friend and it happens the next day? Or are you a prophetic dreamer when, say, you wake up with a dream of a volcano erupting and you alert your community? Or because Uranus is going into Gemini, I forgot when, in July, I don't know. Or you dream of a significant event where people can no longer get online or on social media. They can't use their computers or cell phones, and so they come together to move through the situation. I'm just playing around with that Uranus and Gemini speculation, but you know, just that scenario in general, having a prophetic dream about something like that. It seems like whether a prophetic dream is a private, personal matter connected to one's immediate environment or a dream connected to larger events in society, it's all prophetic. The Gendering of Dreams, Men's Dreams, and Dr. Bulkeley's Dream Library. Before I continue, I just want to do another behind the scenes for you. You know, sharing publicly is such an interesting experience because I feel like, and I experienced this, and I notice other people kind of do this too. It's like you come out into the spotlight in some way, and sometimes it feels like you have to cover every angle because someone's going to be like, "You're fear mongering when you're talking about Uranus going in Gemini and the internet going out." Or, you'll say something like, "The sky is so magnificent. The sun is so magnificent. Oh my gosh, like the clouds are so magnificent." And then you didn't cover that one angle, and someone's going to be like, "It's not always about the sky. It's not always about the sun." It's like you can't win. There's always going to be something. So that's my internal monologue sometimes when I do these intros and you know, building this podcast. But I don't think that's a great way to live life. Like you yeah, you have to really be yourself and um it will become exhausting trying to like try to make everyone happy, and try to make everyone see you in a certain light and make sure people understand you and there's no misunderstandings, and it will become exhausting. And I don't know if I'm about that life, but I do know after spending years on social media, I can understand why myself and other people feel like when you present yourself publicly that you have to like cover all these angles, give these disclaimers, make sure you verbalize all the all the conversations that are happening in the collective consciousness. And maybe I'm not articulating it well, but I think maybe you might understand what I'm saying. And I guess I would only say that I feel like when we share publicly, I'm trying to figure out, should I keep meandering? Because this is me meandering. Yeah, there's more to say about that, but I think maybe the message I want to share is that I think it goes back to my about page on this podcast where I invite people to give this podcast a chance and to come here if they want and they choose to come to this podcast with a spirit of listening and curiosity, and more so than like coming to react. I think that's a lot of the culture these days is not really being present or sitting with what people are sharing and being where people are at, but it's just like this constant reactivity, um, and it's like constantly being in like it's constant like I just feel like things constantly feel about like enlightening each other and not really listening to each other. It's sort of like if I say I would like to go down this path in this park, and instead of someone like listening to me sharing why I'm going down this path and how I'm so excited to go down this path, and then the person didn't hear anything I said, um, because immediately they went into telling me why the other path is better. And I think that's valid though. Like I think that's valid. And sometimes it's hard sharing this way because I never know when people listen to what I just said, what they'll put what I just said alongside some other situation or context in their life, and how that can get, a little muddy. I don't know if that makes sense. So this might not all be making sense, and I need to return back to what I was saying, but I think in general, overall, many people, I think, grapple with the public presentation of themselves. And it's interesting to kind of contemplate and experience being in some kind of spotlight or being perceived. And it's an interesting experience. I think oftentimes it is I mean, okay, I just feel like I'm meandering. This was not planned, but I guess I just wanted to share that and just, yeah, go back to my about page and just to invite people to listen and be present with the podcast and the episodes and all the guests more so than react. Anyway, oh my gosh, here I am trying to make the intros shorter, and I'm making this one longer again. And probably didn't even make any sense. Anyway, all right, let's return back to my script. The gendering of dreams, men's dreams, and Dr. Bulkeley's dream library. Finally, while preparing for this interview, I learned about a book Dr. Bulkeley reviewed in the early 1990s, I think it was the early 90s, called Men's Dreams, Men's Healing by Robert H. Hopk. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the last name right, but it's spelled Hopcke. I asked Kelly about his thoughts on men's dreams, and I learned something new I didn't know or realize before, that dreaming tends to be gendered. You gotta listen to the episode for more on this. But what I will say is that this part of the conversation makes me want to reach out to my grandfather and ask him about his dreams. And if I could, I would ask my brother about his dreams. Kelly has been a dream researcher for a long time, has written numerous books, given talks, and now he and his wife are building a dream library where they live in Oregon. If you know me, you know I love libraries. I'm a slow reader, but I love libraries. Just hearing about Kelly's project is fertile ground for the imagination, for ideas, to seed ideas. Where else can dream libraries be cultivated? The first thing that popped in my head is families. Families of all kinds and sizes could have their own dream library. You could go back 2 generations or so to read your grandpa's dreams. That would be cool. Or you could see what patterns are in the dreams of your family constellation. So, yeah, what an exciting project Kelly is working on. I told him I can only imagine what one might find in a library of dreams. All right, listeners, if you can / want to, please take your time listening to this episode. Make a cup of tea at home, find a cozy cafe, or listen on the go. Either way, I hope you find at least one thing in this episode that is interesting, sparks your curiosity, is helpful, or inspiring in some way. Until next time. Podcast, Kelly. I'm so excited that you were interested in being on Meet Me at the Through Line. Like, truly honored to interview you. And I'd love to start off by asking, how are you doing?
Yeah, well, no, it's great to chat with you and talk with you about dreams. And yeah, I'm doing okay. Life is challenging at all levels these days, it seems. But where I am in Portland, Oregon, spring is slowly but surely arriving, and that feels pretty good. So
I hear that. I love spring, especially in the desert. I'm in the Phoenix metro area, and I love ocotillo plants.
mm,
Um, yeah, and the cacti start flowering, so it's just really
yeah,
beautiful during the
yeah,
springtime here.
a lot of new life.
Um,
Yeah,
what did you say?
a lot of new life. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, a lot of new life. So I'd love to ask, like, my first question to be, what first inspired or influenced you to study dreams and write books about dreams? Because it seems like it's you've just been researching and writing about dreams for decades.
A long time. Yeah. Yeah, I am. I'm maybe I'm in a rut. I don't know, or no, I'm very inspired. I mean, really, the answer is I wasn't raised in a family or a community or a context where dreams were really talked about, and yet from early in life, I had vivid dreams and often nightmares that were very strong in their carryover effects. The way that I would wake up and I'd still feel, my heart was thumping, my breathing was fast. Like I'd just been chased in the dream, and I feel as I wake up that that intensity, um, and so it just got me thinking. And one thing, through high school, I was lucky to grow up in the Bay Area. Uh, and which is kind of a dreamy place in the 70s and 80s, 60s, through from the 60s onward, let's say. And there are a lot of people who, for instance, the founders of the International Association for the Study of Dreams, most of them lived and worked in the Bay Area at that time. And I got to know many of them kind of in my early exploration. So I was lucky. I was sort of intrigued by my own dreams, and then I started looking around, and I found people who were doing creative things with their dreams and with dreaming in general, not just their own, but looking at the collective potentials. We'll hopefully talk about here, and yeah, it just got me excited, and there's so many different aspects of dreaming. I think they're interesting, and in this culture, so few people who have devoted certain kinds of academic attention to certain aspects of dreams. I just felt like, well, this is kind of, I think this is what I'm here for, you know?
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Because I think if I'm right, you started studying dreams or like seeking out dreams like when you started college.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, dreams that had been, um, because there were, many of them were very weird, disturbing nightmares. They were hard not to notice. And then, um, yeah, in late high school and college, I started reading Freud. I started reading Jung, the books from other people like Jeremy Taylor, Gail Delaney, Patricia Garfield, um, and Faraday. That was the first book I read about dreams. Dream Power came out in 1972, I think, 74 maybe. Um, and yeah, and just it's never, every dream is a surprise, so it never stops being interesting and fun. So
Yes. Like, that's so real that dreams can be so surprising. I'm not gonna see, I tend to like, I have to like stay on track, but maybe I'll come back to this, but just to say that like I've had dreams where I've been kind of consistent in recording my dreams, and then I'll have a dream where I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then something will happen in my life where I'm like, wow, I should have paid attention to that dream. So there
Yeah.
is this sort of surprise, there's a surprise element. But I also love how you describe
Yeah.
dreams that, like they can be fun and playful. Um, yeah. I Oh, were you gonna say something?
No, 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 no.
Well, I was trying to figure out my second question. So I definitely see how my dreaming life changes based on where I sleep.
Mhm.
It's so interesting. I'll go to some place and think I'm gonna have these epic dreams, and I don't dream at all. And then I'm somewhere else and somewhere so mundane, I guess, and ordinary, which is fine. And then I'm just having all sorts of dreams. So, can you share with our listeners a story about the relationship between dreams and the environment in your own life? Like maybe you went somewhere and you were like, wow, I'm having all these dreams, or not.
Yeah, yeah. No, when I you shared that question with me before, and I've been thinking about it, and that's and I've been like, that's I don't really know because at some level I feel like my dreams are very like the patterns just they're on their own track. Like it kind of at some level it doesn't matter where I am exactly. But then I think a little more. It's like, oh, but it really does. Like, and you mentioned, before we got going here, the ocean and being near the water, and I know for a fact that when I travel someplace and I'm near the ocean, I'm near water, like that definitely impacts my dreaming. Like that is a very dreamy kind of experience. I'd say though the dream that comes to me is probably the most dramatic thing that happened as a dream researcher to me and to many of my colleagues, which was back in August of 1991. Um, there was a group of researchers who traveled to Moscow, then the Soviet Union, uh, to a retreat center just outside the city for a conference about dreams with Soviet researchers. And when we arrived at the airport, to the day of the conference, we get on our tour bus and we drive to our conference center. As we drive away from the airport, they're like tanks and armored personnel carriers driving to the airport. And we're like, well, I guess this is the Soviet Union. Okay, whatever. Uh, and we get to the retreat center, and I'm laughing now. It wasn't funny then. The host says, "Well, welcome," and I have to tell you that the Red Army seems to be engaged in a coup, and Mikhail Gorbachev, the head of the Soviet Union, has fled who knows where, and uh, like it was the coup. It was like the Soviet Union was like in a revolutionary mode, and so there we were, a bunch of dream researchers, just outside of Moscow. So many adventures and interesting things that happened at that time. But I did have a very powerful dream one of those nights, a time when it was very uncertain, like, oh my God, the Soviet Union's like falling apart. Like this was pre-cell phone. We had no way of communicating with our loved ones. They
Wow.
just knew that we'd flown to Moscow and then like the Iron Curtain shut down, Um, I had a dream about, I won't go into this all the details, but it was something that connected my my father, my relationship with my father, with the kind of generational struggle that was happening at that moment in the Soviet Union as it fell apart. Um, and so it was a dream that kind of helped really connect at such a like very deep level, very memorable level. It both gave me sympathy for what was happening in the Soviet Union. It gave me greater, I have to say, depth of understanding of how I feel about my father and our relationship and the generational struggles and continuities. So Yeah, so that was that was place impacted
Wow.
for sure. My gosh, that was a big dream.
That's so interesting. I was like on the edge of my seat listening to you share that. And thank you for still sharing and like keeping some details like private and sacred because I know that's really important in dream sharing. I've definitely had some powerful dreams where I'm like, I don't know if I should share this. Especially if you're still processing it.
Yeah, yeah, dream sharing, has an amazing history and practices, all over the world. And one of the key principles is, you got to trust people. You don't just
Mm.
throw it out there necessarily. I mean, sometimes you may feel called to share a dream just broadly. That can happen, but there are also times when there is a kind of a personal power or energy that you want to share with people who will respect that and hear you. Yeah, yeah. So that makes sense.
Oh, I love that. That's affirming for me because sometimes I have those moments where I'm not sure if I should share certain details, or sometimes I do have this sense of like there are dreams I have about people where I have this sense of like I kind of want to protect them in some way, like protecting the dream. That makes complete sense. Wow.
Yeah.
I yeah, when I never I was thinking of like dreaming in the mountains versus like you visited your cousin in suburbia, but like dreaming in a whole nother country.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't share the research because I don't think it's been published yet, but I helped with a woman named Apila Colorado, and a friend of mine named Ryan Hurd, on a study where they gathered dreams at the French shrine, Lourdes, I want to say. I can't pronounce French, but like a very sacred place. And they gathered dreams there, and we did an analysis of the patterns of those dreams and compared them to kind of average dreams. So there is a little bit of research on this question. You know, stay tuned.
Wow, that's so interesting because in that case, then that makes my mind go in all sorts of directions. Like, wow, what are people in that one town in Brazil dreaming about? What
Exactly.
are
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. It's just like being a dream researcher and dream research is, at least to me, so fascinating and rich. And speaking of research, have you come across any dream research that's changed how you understand dreams and the dream world, if you use that
Yeah.
word?
Yeah. I would say I had, it was probably I wouldn't say it was a mistake so much as the biggest kind of 180 or one of them. I've done a few 180s, I guess, but a big 180 early in my career, something that I was very critical of that I spun around and realized is actually helpful, because the research persuaded me, which was using content analysis. It's so-called content analysis in the study of dreams. And there's a particular system developed by two researchers, Calvin Hall and Robert Vandecassel, back in the mid 1960s, um, that for one reason or another has become kind of the standard method for looking for patterns across large numbers of dreams. So, like this study of the dreams at Lourdes, this shrine. How many of the dreams have colors? How many of the dreams have animal references? How many of the dreams have references to emotions of fear or happiness? That kind of thing. That with a little, effort to create reliable categories and such. You can get a lot of information. And my initial, sort of uh, view of that early in my career, my dissertation and such, was very critical. It's like, oh, that's the bean counter approach to dream research, and exploring dreams. That's just breaking dreams into little bits. That's being mean to the dreams. What are you doing? Why do you do that? Um, but then I just got thinking like, well, the people doing that kind of research were, hmm, among other things, were not, let's say, spiritually sensitive about dreams at all. And indeed, they use that kind of tool as a club to beat on anybody who said the dreams have some special meaning. And so I didn't like that. But I realized when I looked at the research, I came to see that, like, if these are just tools, and yes, tools can be used to do bad, dumb things. But what if I learn how to use these tools and then use them for my interests and the interests of other people who share my interest? Um, so that's what I've done over the years, and this is the sleep and dream database that a bunch of people help me manage. Is kind of the fruit of that long turnaround, where research really did show me, like, oh wow, there are these patterns, and they do reflect our waking lives at a certain level, and that's just interesting. And you know does it's not the be all and end all. It's not uh, the only meaning in dreams, but that's one area where for sure I the research persuaded me to change my tune. So
Wow, that's so interesting. Yeah, it sounds like that helps you kind of gain clarity or become more confident in like this way of like finding patterns. And I know that people talk about like there's pattern languages throughout the world or the universe where it's like you see the spiral, you see
mhm.
there's like numbers that are a language. And I guess I never really thought about patterns in dreams.
It's
Um
amazing. I mean, this was like, I had such an aha experience when I tried this Paul and Vandercastle method. The first thing I did was, okay, we'll work on my dreams. Okay, you think this is such a powerful method? Well, show me. And I tried it with a set of 3 years of my dream journal, and when I looked at the results, I was like, oh my gosh, this is such an interesting mirror of the things in my waking life, like the people. Like, basically, what comes out is, the more frequent something is in your dreams, it's likely to reflect something meaningful in your waking world. Could be something you hate, doesn't have to be a good thing, but something that you have an emotional concern about and attachment or involvement with. Um, it's like, literally, I've had to learn over the years to be sensitive when I share the results of these studies with people, because they're like a little freaked out that their dreams reveal so much. Um,
wow.
so yeah, that's. Um, I actually think that I've come to believe this method is even more powerful and interesting than these original, somewhat, I don't know, more scientifically focused, let's say, researchers who develop these tools. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's such a rabbit hole.
Oh my gosh,
That's
it
such
really
a rabbit hole.
is.
Um, wow. Okay, well now I'm gonna be looking for patterns in my dream journal. All right, so I'm gonna pivot a little bit. I'm so moved by the Scribes of Sleep, insights from the most important dream journals in history. I'm finding like my top books all of a sudden. And I'm curious what moved you to write this book.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me. It's been a book. There was a book that was long in coming, and yet when I was actually writing it, it was an especially intense kind of time in terms of various things going on in my family life. So I'm amazed it makes any sense at all. Just, it was really such a weird state of mind. Um, but it's it's about the power of the dream journal, and each of us has this potential resource. in our own dreams, tracking them, following them, listening to them over time, um, these amazing things emerge, and there's a something of a history to it, and we can learn from the people whose dream journals. You know, it's kind of a lot of whims of history in terms of what survived and what hasn't survived in terms of journals. And so, someone who's a one of the people I profile in the book, Benjamin Banneker, African American inventor and surveyor and farmer. We know he kept a dream journal. He talked about his dream journal. He references it, and we have a little bit of a dream journal still left, but much of it was destroyed, burned by people who, after his death, who racist hatred and envy and who knows what. Uh, an incredible loss to history, you know. And I mean, because the thing that when I started doing the research for this book, that really struck me was someone like Benjamin Banneker, who's like one of the great minds, not just of American history, but just of history, just a brilliant, brilliant man. He really was interested in his dreams. And the other people that are profiled in this book are intense people in their own ways. They're scientists, they're mystics, they're inventors, um, and they're curious about these patterns in their dreams. And so it just seems like we can learn from that. And uh, yeah, yeah. So yeah, these are like you know, I think our anybody who keeps a dream journal today, these are kind of our elders. It feels to me. Um, yeah.
It just it's like it's kind of mind-blowing that you were able to like, I just love that you even had the idea to write this book and that there have been people throughout time who've kept dream journals, and I'm like, this is like a serious phenomenon, like, people have been dreaming for thousands of years, and I had already been taking a class with a dream tender, someone else I'm going to interview. I'm going to keep it a surprise, but we were talking about recording our dreams, and it was so synchronous because then I saw Cherise Francis's post about Benjamin Banneker, which led me to your book, and the book really just like there was something that clicked, like,
Oh,
you know,
good.
when you it's like, oh yeah, I can do a dream journal, that's cute, but then I read your book and I'm like, wait a minute, people have been having dream journals for like thousands of years, and not only that, but you can track them, and it was
Yeah.
just amazing, like, just to
Oh, good.
read Benjamin Banneker's dreams, which felt really like mystical and spiritual. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is the thing that almost all of them were both very kind of scientific and rational, and they could really focus their minds. Like you know, one of them is a Nobel Prize winning physicist, Wolfgang Pauli, that I talked about, who kept a long dream journal. Uh, so they're not like uh, I don't know, frivolous people, you know. But they're also super, like almost all of them in their own way were mystics and deeply spiritual through these you know, through the tracking of their own dreams. So there's something there's it seems to just to me it seems to disclose something of human potential, that if enough of us pursue this kind of practice, which isn't very hard to do, it just isn't, it's not rocket science, you know, it's tracking your dreams over time. People for thousands of years using any number, you know, paper and pencil or scrolls or chiseling things on rocks. I mean, I think I might say this in the book, that some of the Paleolithic rock art, you know, in some of the caves of Lascaux and other parts of Africa and Australia as well, I think in some ways are like the first dream journals, like those, like before there was any other way of recording things. You look at some of that early Paleolithic rock art, and they're in trippy places. You know, they're in kind of dreamy caves and mountains and such, rock outcroppings. My hypothesis is those are very early dream journals, at some level. So
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the dreams of people like 10,000 years ago. And I don't know. Yeah, it's just like it's something to pay attention to. For if most of us, if not all of us, are dreaming, even if you just have one dream and everyone's just been dreaming this whole time.
yep,
Um, gosh, that's yeah, just it's just an amazing book. Um, and
thank you.
and
That's really nice.
what'd you say?
Oh, that's just nice of you to say. Thank you.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love the cover, the colors. And yeah, like you were saying, each person in the Scribes of Sleep is fascinating. Like every person, every story, and they keep me up at night where I'm thinking, oh, you can receive healing through a dream, or I can't quite remember everything. I think it's because I'm a little obsessed with Lucretia.
Yeah, as am I.
um,
Yeah, as am
Oh,
I.
you're obsessed with Lucretia? Okay, let's get into it. I'm particularly drawn to Lucretia de Leon or Lucretia the Dreamer. And
Mhm.
for people who don't know who she is, can you tell us about her?
Yeah, yeah. She's a young woman who lived in late 16th century Spain, so like late 1500s, at a time when Spain uh, and its king, Philip II, was the greatest power in the world, um, with an empire like twice as big as Rome, something like that, that had at its peak. Like he was the beginning of kind of colonization of the Americas. He was the head of the Catholic Church. Like he was large and in charge. Um, and his big plan was to attack England and conquer England. Uh, and he had this plans to send this armada, this fleet of ships. And Lucretia was a young woman who, from a very modest background in Madrid, had gained a reputation as a dreamer. People, strange dreams, which is a dangerous thing. This is like peak Spanish Inquisition. Like they were out to get you if you crossed any number of lines that they didn't want you to cross. And being a dreamer was something you really didn't like. Her father beat her because of her dreams and said, "Cut it out." Um, and she didn't, or we don't know how much she did, but she kept dreaming. And kind of long story short, her dreams for about a year before the sailing of the Armada in 1588 portended disaster for the Armada. And I should say that uh, for maybe a couple years, I'm trying to remember when it started, maybe a good year before the Armada sailed, priests had been coming to her house every morning uh, to record her dreams because there was a particular powerful priest who maybe was a little on the kooky side. You don't quite know about him, but he very powerful, and he was interested in her dreams. So it actually was this kind of ideal dream research method where every morning when she'd wake up, there was a priest, a scribe, ready to write her dreams out because she was illiterate. She didn't know how to read or write, as lower class servant level women at the time, that was the case. Um, and then what do you know? The Armada, when the day comes, fails and is shockingly defeated. And suddenly everyone realized her dreams came true, or she anticipated what was going to happen. So there's sort of a burst of attention towards her, but that's not a good thing. Again, the Inquisition gets involved, and I'm not gonna tell the end of the story because I really think it is a dramatic story. Uh, but I would say what it one one theme that I continue to reflect on is um, the power of dreaming to speak truth to our time, to our community, to power, um, and how dangerous that can be. How glorious that can be, and amazing that this young woman, out of nowhere, seemingly has this genius for dreaming, which to me, I believe we're all dreamers. I think we're all connected as dreamers. I don't think anybody it lacks that potential. I think that's something that deeply connects us. And among us all, there are some number, however many you want to say, one out of every million or whatever it is, who really have a an aptitude or a extra sensitivity to these dimensions of our lives, and I think she did. Um, yeah. So I that was like a I don't want to say a bucket list book, but it was a book where it's like I have to live long enough to write this book. I have to write this book. I feel I'm called to make sure her story, because it's her story has been told in, to my view, inadequate ways that kind of muffled the really, I mean, and there's a bunch of other stories of her unusual dreaming capacities that say that conventional historians have no idea what to do with and just have ignored my views. And I'm like, oh my god, this woman is like our patron saint for dreamers, really. I mean, she is for me. So
It's incredible. It's incredible. In that book, you're talking about Lucretia the Dreamer, Prophecy, Cognitive Science, and the Spanish Inquisition, which you
yeah,
wrote.
yeah.
And I was reading chapter 7 this morning. And you describe her dreaming as strange and fantastic, with a lot of coherence, complexity, and relevance to the waking reality of her time. And her prophetic dreams caught the attention of the inquisitors because they were so specific and accurate. So she was kind of threatening because she was having such accurate prophetic dreams. And I
Oh
guess
yeah.
I keep telling my grandma, I'm like, I just don't understand the logic. I'm like, well, if she's having these dreams, don't you think she would have been like set up in a fancy house somewhere?
Right. Yeah. No, wouldn't you think the king would be like, "Oh, that's." Come on in. Tell me, No, no, that was not. I mean, it's again, this is the tough part of the story is that, she was like 19 years old at the time this was happening, 20 years old. Um, and the king had enemies. And when the Armada failed, his enemies were like wanted to rub his nose in it. And so they started, there was a time when she was kind of brought around to the well-to-do aristocratic homes to tell her dreams, and her mother was always her chaperone. Um, and so she was kind of, she was acknowledged, but not really. She was used. Like it's a tragic story at a certain level. I Yeah, there's a lot of tragedy to it, that even though she was right, and if you'd listened to her, things would have been better. They didn't, and they did their darndest to prove that she was a witch. They really tried. That the Inquisition life would have been so much easier if they could have proven that she was a witch, and they couldn't. There was no other than her amazingly prophetic dreams. In all other ways, she was like, you know just a normal young woman from that time and place. uh,
Wow.
very courageous woman, though. She could have confessed. Like, she probably could have made things up to get out of it, and she just kept saying, no, that's what I whatever you want to say, that's what I dreamed.
Yeah, I read you wrote they kept trying to make her like say she's a fraud, and I just don't understand. I'm just like it's just like you just don't understand, like. And then she was like tortured. So I guess I was just it's yeah, it and then actually didn't realize that she was being used either. So it seems like all around like people didn't
Yeah,
understand how to even just like be with someone
yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
who
Yeah,
has that dream capacity. Yeah. And I'm like, I just think it's so cool that you've, as a dream researcher, you were able to recognize that maybe traditional historians or historians maybe weren't able to like tell or retell her story in the way that you could from your perspective. And so I don't know, thinking about the spirit of Lucretia, the story of
Yeah,
Lucretia, and how, like, I don't know, I think it's an interesting kind of time connection. You 500 plus years later.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, 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 yeah.
and it's really amazing. And I was gonna say, like, do you have any thoughts on like how people respond to prophetic dreamers? Do you think like today it's still something that's taboo?
Well, I mean, it's uncanny. It's it's weird. Like people, it the fact of dreaming that anticipates the future, which dreams do. I mean, in ways large and small. I mean, she was a very like that's just I don't know of a more dramatic historical story of prophetic dreaming than hers. I think there's a lot of that kind of thing going on in, let's say, smaller, more um, ways that are more intertwined with each of our personal lives. Also, but collective as well. And if we have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, that's sometimes what it takes. I'd say that her story does seem to illustrate a well. It makes me kind of adopt a principle of caution in the sense that these kinds of dreams can be especially threatening to those who are in power. Um, and at whatever level of power you want to talk about power. In her case, it was basically the most powerful man literally in the world. That her dreams were destabilizing, and he didn't like that. He was the king. He'd been king for a long time, and he liked being king, and he didn't want this illiterate young woman making him look bad. Um, I worried that that kind of dynamic isn't limited to her case, but that any dreaming in general is destabilizing to the status quo. So anybody whose power depends on the status quo remaining the status quo probably is not going to like dreaming. That's a sort of general idea of mine that I look around and I look through history, and I think there's something to that uh, dreaming tends to have a bit. Those who are interested in dreams and called to explore dreams are often those who are looking beyond the status quo, looking for not necessarily what is, but what might be, what we're growing or evolving or developing into. And I think what your question about Lucretia is like, why don't we celebrate those people? Why don't we welcome them into the sort of the collective reflection process and really take that seriously? Uh, and I share that I share that question,
Yeah.
and I think some cultures through history have been a little better about that than others. Uh, we could certainly be better, but I don't. What gives me a little hope, I suppose, is there's nothing impossible about that. That's just shifting attitudes. Not even probably that much. Uh, so the resource is there. That resource, I think, is always there uh, for us collectively in that sense. So.
And that's just like, yeah, I feel like I'm gonna think more about everything that you just said.
I'm giving you a big download here. I'm giving you all. I'm letting. You
So
asked me about
grateful.
big projects. I don't know what to say. Yeah.
I'm so grateful, and I know there are going to be listeners out there who are just going to be listening. I like to tell people, bring your snacks when you listen to the podcast. Just listening to this and just taking it all in, because wow. And yeah, because I feel like, if you're not taught about dreams, or there's like, your dreams are downplayed, or for some people you're severed from your dreams for different reasons, when it's like this is a big part of our lives, just because it just happened, it's going to happen, and it's like breathing, it just is. And if you're not around dream tenders and dream researchers, and you're not exposed to anything that you just said, it's like it's almost sort of like a, at least for me, years and years ago, before I reconnected to my
Mhm.
dreams, you're kind of disassociated and you don't know what's going on and it just
Yeah.
happens and it's so I think, yeah, when you share like that, it helps kind of reconnect to this experience that we're most, if not all of us, are having.
Yeah. 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 And I actually think I've more and more come to believe that that dreaming isn't done until we've shared our dreams in some way, or we brought them into the waking world in some way. Um, and that again, our contemporary Western, let's say American society, doesn't make that easy. I mean, there are spaces for that, but you have to make an effort to look around. It's not part of, let's say, ordinary socialization. That, oh yeah, you have dreams and they're these kinds and those kinds, and uh, when you talk about them, be respectful of each other. The basic things that I think other cultures actually do make part of their kind of education. Let's say general kind of cultural education. That again is what one of the main things that gives me hope going forward, and always I think will, until we somehow banish dreaming. But that every single human has this capacity, and this source of wisdom and guidance that um, we've barely begun to learn its deeper potential. So I just feel like we just keep on keeping on with sharing this information, sharing these ideas, offering ways to connect and to explore, find communities of like-minded dreamers. And I don't know where that exactly leads, but I got to think it starts to generate the kind of energy we're going to need to deal with the things that are happening. It's not going to come from nowhere.
Wow, that's amazing. Just just amazing and I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say, but I have a few more questions left.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, maybe could do another dream share. Because however much you want to share, but I'm curious. It's I think that you already shared like a powerful dream, but if you want to share another dream that maybe influenced your decision making in waking life, or a dream that changed your life, if you ever had a healing dream.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of felt the. I mean, what I could tell is the kind of the arc with my nightmares. Kind of, I would say. I mean, people come into dreaming uh, from different angles, different types of dreams, or kind of call them. And I'd say my calling came through like kind of archetypal nightmares that had different sort of frightening antagonists, people, things, monsters chasing me and such. Um, that uh, initially were just felt alien. I mean, literally and metaphorically, just like, what is that? That has no connection to anything I can feel in my life. And this was, and I've lived long enough now, and I've had enough therapy that I can say this with some confidence. It wasn't, as some nightmares are, trauma related, in the sense of like some horrible thing happened to me. I had a pretty comfortable, not ultra wealthy life, but like I no horrible things happened to me that would account for these kinds of nightmares. And and so I was like, what is this? These are weird dreams. And everything, I guess what really started to perplex me was everything I'm good at in the waking world. Uh, I'm a fast runner. I'm pretty smart. I can reason my way through things. None of that mattered in these dreams. I couldn't outrun my attackers. I couldn't. talk my way out of situation. I couldn't hide. I couldn't fight. I Nothing that I was good at in the waking world was helping in these spaces. And this is where, as I mentioned earlier, good fortune of being in the Bay Area and hearing about the work of Jeremy Taylor and reading some Jung, reading some Freud, other people, the notion of the shadow and the idea that within each of us there is an aspect of uh, the psyche of the mind. In fact, the greater part, like kind of the iceberg under the surface of the water, uh, where consciousness and our conscious egos are, uh, that's what we're aware of. But there's this, and that's kind of what gets the light of day. But at night, and particularly in dreams, these other aspects of the psyche are uh, uh, made accessible to us. And if our waking, and this is the thing that really hit me, is, are, if our waking life attitudes and sort of the way we carry ourselves and beliefs and such are out of sync with that bigger iceberg part of ourselves, that, the unconscious, that it doesn't get the light of day, but is still a part of us, and actually an important part of us. And yet, if we become alienated from it, it becomes an alien. And that's what I realized, like, oh my gosh, that's what these dreams are.
Mm.
These dreams are symbolic images of these parts of myself that I am completely disconnected from. I don't understand. I certainly give no respect to or place in my waking life for. Emotional type things that I wasn't very emotionally expressive at that point. I was good at a lot of things, but not emotional expressiveness. And sort of the key turning point, and this is kind of I think, to your question, like what really changed the way I thought about dreams and myself was that, um, as I really thought through this idea of the shadow and what it meant about who I am and what any person is about, the dreams changed, the nightmares changed, the sense of relentlessly being attacked changed, and it felt like, this kind of paraphrasing Nietzsche, but if you stare long enough into your dreams, at some point your dreams are going to stare back at you. Uh,
Oh,
and
oh
and
my gosh.
and when I began paying attention to my dreams and what they were saying and tried to listen, I felt, still feel, that they are responding. That it's a dialogue, it's a conversation. Back to, journaling. That's kind of what a journal is. It's a long-term conversation with your unconscious self. Um, so yeah. So those dreams. I was a tough nut to crack. I think. I think I needed gentler dreams would not have worked. I needed something that was really just going to hammer me and just say, take a minute here, boy, and think about this and reflect on this. Uh, and and uh, and I'm glad I did. I suppose it could have gone a different way. Maybe the dreams would have gotten worse. Maybe I could have taken some pills or something and just made them go away or muffled them. I don't know, but that's certainly, yeah, that's how it played out.
And it sounds like it was the nightmares, which were the shadow, which was your unconscious, was trying to get your attention.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
trying to get your attention. And that's
yep,
so interesting. Like how yourself tries to get your attention.
exactly. This is the big. This is why some people don't like dreams. Right here is like some people are like, I don't like that idea. I don't like the idea that there's something else in me that's not me, but that has this kind of influence over me. That, for some people, that right there is just a very difficult process to, or idea to just think and deal with. And hence, I think the importance of sharing what it's like on the other side of that. And like, hey, that's okay. That's not bad. That's actually good. That's kind of, in some ways that's a beginning of any number of spiritual paths, realizing like, oh, your ego is not the king of the world. There are the, other things that are you're in this relational network of all sorts of things. So dreaming is a great venue for that, for learning that and experiencing it and really feeling it in a deep transformative way. But some people, it's like, it's a cold pool and they don't want to jump in, so that's where we big dreamers, I think at that level, I think can be helpful in recognizing that other people, it's a bit more of a process. So that's helped me along.
Wow, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely has my mind spinning and going in a lot of directions. Cause yeah, people could be having nightmares and not know their left foot from their right foot, like what to even think about their nightmares,
Yeah.
And wow, it's so interesting how your nightmares took you on that journey. Um,
I would not have thought it, but there it is. Yeah.
wow. Um, that just and I just also feel like some interesting like silence,
Mm.
like after you shared all that, like being in some sort of silence to like listen to what you just shared. But I do want to ask you, okay, so I have about four more questions. They're very short. And then okay,
No,
so
I'm the one who's going on and on. No, you're doing
no,
great. Don't
this
worry.
is great. I'm like I can't wait until this goes live. So there are I've been in a couple of dream circles and I noticed that some people really love dream interpretation and other people don't like it or they're kind of iffy about it. So my next question has a bit of a follow-up.
Yeah.
There's this you have a blog post under your film and art section on your website and you write, if you woke up one morning with a vivid dream in mind, who could help you understand it? Do you know anyone who specializes in dream interpretation? And then you go on to say, in earlier times, you could bring your dream to a local shaman, sage, or priest. During the 20th century, you could consult with a psychoanalyst or some other kind of psychologist. Today, however, few religious leaders have any interest in dreams. Most professional psychologists receive no training in dream interpretation. The same is true of neuroscientists, who tend to dismiss all dreams as random nonsense from the brain. If you felt your dream was more than random nonsense, where else could you turn for help and insight? So first, I didn't really know how to phrase this, but like, what is your perspective on the pros and cons of dream interpretation?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the phrase makes it sound almost more intimidating than it really is. It's just okay. Step back. We haven't talked about this yet, but I tend to see dreaming, um, the function of dreaming as play, the play of the imagination in sleep, and sometimes that play can be rough. Like my nightmares were rough play, very rough play. But the dynamics of play, of experimentation and sudden changes and relevance to waking life ultimately in terms of real issues at play. I tend to think of interpretation as interpreting dreams as um, basically playing with them, not trying to, like, what does this darn thing mean? What value can I squeeze out of it? But rather, this is something that my unconscious has gifted me. It's crossed the threshold from forgetfulness into my memory. Here it is, without trying to, like I said, sort of have a goal in mind. Just like what comes to mind. What's Play with it. Let the ideas bounce around. Let the feelings. Look at the images. Think about them. What comes up. Um, and hey, it's sometimes fun to play with other people too. You can play. Solitary play is fine. It can be fun to play with others too, shared playing. And
Mhm.
so dream sharing, I think if it's practiced in a spirit of play, of we're not there's not a power, like one thing that play is, it's kind of a bit of a power free zone. Like you can bring power relations into play, but you're playing with them. They're like, that's the big difference. It's almost like, you know um, uh, uh, you know play is both part of reality, part of the actual, but also partly shaped by our imaginations and our whims and our desires and our creativity. And so, um, I tend to think that the best dream sharing groups are really just kind of play groups, in the sense that the dreams are the toys, um, and each person has their own style of play and their own way of making sense of dreams. And the most vital thing, I think, in uh, dream sharing with other people, whether it's one other person, or a group, any setting really, uh, is just the basic respect for the dreamer. And that if someone is sharing a dream with you, you may have a big aha. You may have awesome, amazing ideas. You may know all sorts of things about what you think the dream means, and that can be really helpful to the dreamer if you share it in such a way that it doesn't make them feel like you're bossing them around. You're telling them what their dream means. You're trying to pretend to be Dr. Freud or something, and that happens, and it's okay. It when people realize it, sometimes they get ashamed, like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on so hard. Hearing other people's dreams really does bring up valuable things for the members of the group, that can be helpful and positive. And so the goal is to find kind of ride the wave, draw upon the energies and the insights from the group, to help the dreamer, but do so in such a way, making sure that the dreamer doesn't feel put upon, or that the dreamer is always in charge, really.
Mhm.
And if someone says, well, if that were my dream, it might mean I'm having issues with my boss at work. Dreamer might say, yeah, that's interesting. That might be true for you, but it's not true for me. And that's okay. Um, and it's also okay because that person might have been right, and maybe the dreamer doesn't want to get into that right there. Maybe
Mhm.
it's going to take a couple days for the dreamer to kind of hear that comment and have it land and make sense. Doesn't have to all happen right in that moment. But that respectfulness, I think, sets the stage for a lot of very positive, um, discoveries about the dreams. And then, we could talk about this at much greater length, the community building qualities of a dream sharing group, the kinds of practices of community that are cultivated in a dream sharing group, I think have much bigger, uh, potential impacts in our society. So again, I could
Wow.
get very, sort of, you know, get very excited about that. But you have to experience it. I can't really say much more than I have without suggesting just try it. There are people who write about this, methods and practices. It's not that complicated, really. Um, but I do think it cultivates the kinds of ways of interacting with other people at a really genuine, human, authentic level that it feels good in the moment. I guarantee you that. That's pretty much what everybody says, in these kinds of processes. And I think nudges, pushes the needle a little bit more in the right direction. So who knows?
Well, I love how you're saying how dream sharing is like building community, and thinking more thoughtfully about the play space of dream sharing and kind of checking in with people, like, how do you want to share dreams? Like, how do you want people to
Mm.
respond? Like, are you okay if I share an interpretation with you that may or may not resonate? Because I think sometimes people who are new to dream circles or dream sharing, um, they don't know any. they might not know anything from anything. And so it's like, meaning like they don't know that they they don't know that their dream doesn't have to be interpreted, that they could just share it and that's it. Or, maybe someone needs guidance and like they need someone to show how do you share a dream before they share their dream. So
Yeah.
yeah, what you're just sharing just reminds me like there's so many different ways to share and kind of I guess making some collective agreements on the way folks want to dream, share and
Yeah.
play and yeah, I've been in some dream circles online. I've around the fire
Yeah.
one time on like this audio app where like people from around the world got on this audio app and just shared dreams. So all you heard were people's voices. So, it's, yeah. And I guess I'm just thinking about that person you were talking about who offered a dream interpretation, but like moved back a little bit, like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't want to step on your toes. Because I do
Yeah.
see that. I see some people who are so passionate in sharing their dream
Yeah.
interpretations, and then maybe other folks who aren't as open to that. So it's trying to find some sort of middle ground.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's and I've thought about this a lot over the years. There's and you just kind of named it that you really did. That's exactly right. That there's many people who this is for whom this is new, and there was a time when it was all totally new to me. This has been my journey too. There's you hear somebody else's dream, or even your own dream. But let's say you're in a dream sharing group, and you know you're going around a circle and you're sharing a dream and talking about it a little bit, and someone shares the dream, and often one of two things happens with people. One, they're like, "Oh my god, that dream! I have no idea. That seems like a meaningless dream. There's nothing there." And the other is like, "Oh, I know exactly what that dream means. I'll tell you exactly. Boom! I have this amazing immediate aha. I'll tell you right now." And both of those reactions, the kind of absence of any response and the big fast response, both of those, in my experience at this point, reflect the discomfort of the ego with the weirdness of a dream. That there is something there.
Mhm.
So the big aha isn't wrong, but it's going to take some time. It's not. It doesn't come out that quickly usually. So the pause and the is there anything there? They do need to come together a little bit and just like take a deep breath. Um, it's not as easy as the quick response thought. It's not as hard necessarily as the skeptic or the denier thought. Um, you got to let the ego's anxiety sort of settle and to encounter the dream as it is, not through an immediate rationalizing framework or from just a complete denial, like, oh, this is just doesn't even get in the door. I can't even.
Mhm.
There's nothing there. Yeah, so it's every dream sharing process is its own little journey, of kind of overcoming those socialized resistances and assumptions and just listening. It's just really a very deep practice, simple practice of listening to ourselves and to the deep selves of others.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Shout out to the dream circle I'm a part of. I don't know if you're a part of any
Yeah.
dream circles. So thank you for sharing that. This has been an amazing kind of dream voyage with you so far. And I have one question that I really wanted to ask. It's a surprising question because I made all my questions and then I found this website. Wait, it's the Dream Network Journal website. I saw that, you've been reviewing dream books since the early 1990s. And in 1992, you reviewed Men's Dreams, Men's Healing. A psychotherapist explores a new view of masculinity. Ugh, a
Yeah.
New View of Masculinity Through a Jungian Dreamwork by Robert H. Hope. Hope. I
Yeah.
hope I said that right. So I know that this review was such a long time ago, and it's not necessarily about the book itself, but it put me on to like Men in Dreams because I think you wrote in your review, you were reflecting on how the author was saying mostly women, I guess at that time, I don't know if it's changed now, were gravitating toward dream events and there was less men. And then, the review goes on talking about men in dreams and like I'm not thinking about that, but I do notice that for the most part, maybe there's one instance where there were a couple of men in the dream share group. So I'm just curious, like what are your thoughts on men in
Yeah,
dreams?
yeah. Well,
That's so broad.
that's a deep cut in my writings for sure. That goes pretty far back. Uh, yeah, I remember. I do remember the book, and just generally, I so there's a couple things. There's a sense in which in Western society, and this goes back a while now, and it's still somewhat true today. Dreaming is feminized. Dreaming and it gets gendered feminine. Um, and it's been that way for a while. And I think it's because well, there's all sorts of reasons for that. And so, in general socialization, I think I'm going to speak of, let's say, American society the last 50 years or so. Kind of my time zone. Uh, Women have been much more encouraged in all sorts of ways to be attentive to their emotional lives, and men have been encouraged in all sorts of ways to deny that they have emotional lives. And this is sort of uh, taken the form of attitudes towards dreams, which I think are better now. I actually think this is, I'd have to read that book again now, 30 some odd years later, because there was a time when I would have said women have markedly higher frequencies of dream recall, um, and more interest in dreams. Uh, and I'm not sure that's quite as true anymore. I think the research I'm seeing and doing is it's getting a little more even. So that's I will say that a ton of dream research, and probably this is what I was referencing to. Uh, Women for decades have been much more willing to share their dreams in research. Women tend to be more likely to major in psychology in college, and a lot of research. This I don't think this is a good thing. I think we're trying to grow beyond this, but a lot of research, is done by just giving surveys out to first year psych students who have been 60, 70, 80% women in some of these studies. So yeah, so men's dreams are a bit of a terra incognita, which is too bad because I think, and I think Hopkins' book gets into this a little bit. Uh, the let's just say the opportunities that paying attention to your dreams offer for reflecting on your fears, your discovering your unknown strengths, dealing with conflicts, and learning how to take responsibility for your own emotional business. These are all things that everybody can benefit from. Let's say that many contemporary men could potentially benefit lots from that. So I don't like the gendering of it. I don't. That actually I think is an unfortunate thing. I think dreaming is a human phenomenon. Um, Male, female, everything in between. All this is like I'm talking with some people doing some research on non-binary gendered dreamers, starting to really add to the research knowledge base of all human possible dreaming. So um, yeah, I guess it's also ties in a bit with social power. What I was saying before about those who have power maybe feeling threatened by dreams in some ways, whereas and back to maybe Scribes of Sleep, I think there's enormous power in dreaming and exploring dreams. Maybe not the kind of power people are looking for in terms of beating up on others, but power in terms of understanding and insight and ability to interact creatively with the world. That's Dreams are great for that.
Wow. Yeah, I think thank you for sharing that. I feel like I'm really interested in yeah, these things like dreams at the intersection of like men, I guess also cis men in particular, because I think there is a lot out there that's geared toward like women and if you're
Yeah.
queer or trans, but I feel like in my own life I don't see as much geared toward cis men. Like I'm having a hard time finding my words, but just like I don't know, I just feel like maybe that's my own sort of
Hmm.
kind of world and I because I'm not a cis man, but
Yeah.
I
No, but it's
just
a good question. No, no, I'm not, I think I know what you're getting at least autobiographically, where I had to figure this out for myself. I really wish I had had. I mean, I found them eventually, but it took a while, and there were several years where I was like, I'm such a weirdo. I know I want to do this, and I'm called to it, but I realize like I don't know anybody else who's interested in this. So um, it's important to find people that share you can connect with in these ways. So yeah, no, I think I hear you that there could be more in these directions. I don't know what shape it will,
yeah,
I don't know, but
it could be interesting to have like a men's dream circle, and
yeah,
see what kind of patterns come up
yeah,
in that
yeah,
that circle, and kind of
yeah,
um change that general gendering of the dream time and
yeah,
dreams.
yeah. It's yeah, I mean, dreaming in that sense is kind of a solvent for I think a solvent for any kind of, socialized nonsense, like if you really, if you, and especially with the group of people, if you can explore dreams over time, I think you can really, at this level, there's other levels of meaning too, but at this level of like, how have we been programmed, each of us, no matter where we are in the hierarchy and whatever, we've all been programmed up the wazoo,
Mhm.
and part of being human these days is like becoming conscious of those programmings, and
Mhm.
not letting them control us. And so at that level, if nothing else, like I think dream work can be very helpful for young men, for all of us. And like, how have I been socialized to think and behave and feel in ways that aren't healthy for me and certainly aren't healthy for the world, And how can I find something that I can trust that's true to me, that I can rely on instead of what I hear from wherever else, You got to give something. You can't just say this is all bad and unhealthy for you. What's the healthy alternative? And this is where I
Mhm.
think dreaming can open doors for people. So
Ah, amazing. Gosh, dreaming gets better and better. It gets better and better.
yeah,
Okay, so we are winding down. I have
yeah,
two more. I just want to know, yeah, you've been doing research for I'm going to be 34 this year. You've been doing research like it sounds like longer than, you know, I've been alive and I like like somewhere around there and I like, I'm interested in how like generations
mm,
kind of build off of each other because this what you shared is, this contributes to the next generation's understanding dreams. And you being from another generation, you're tied to other times, so you're
yeah,
tapping into other timelines and then kind of synthesizing that information to share with us who are born in the 90s,
yeah,
the
yeah,
80s, whatever, and the 2000s.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like how I always think it's cool to be like, well, I was born in the 20th century, right? The
I
21st
know
century.
that's a thing now. No, I hear you. I hear you.
And so, but yeah, shout out to all the people born after 2000 also. You
Oh,
know. I did get to experience life before cell phones and tablets and the internet, so that,
Yeah,
um, yeah, that makes me think about your story about being in Soviet Russia without a cell phone and like
yeah. Oh my
a
gosh.
life without cell phones. Oh my gosh. So how has your dream research and the field of dream research, how has it changed over the years?
Yeah, yeah. That's really kind of you to speak in those terms of kind of the generational flow of these things. I absolutely would not be here in any way, anything like the way I am, but for really wonderful teachers I've had, many of whom are gone, some of whom are still around, but yeah, who I can only hope to, just carry on some of the things that they discovered and have shared with us. So there, and yet there is also this sense. I've got three kids, kind of all more or less in your age range, and uh, these are strange times intergenerationally. Let's say it's very the way technologies have changed so quickly, kind of upend some of the knowledge transmission instead of knowledge kind of coming from the elders to the youngers. Now the elders are feels very dependent on younger generations, and the sense I get is that the younger generations are I annoyed and or scared by that. Like, well, you guys are supposed to know what's going on and keeping things together. You're asking me how to reboot your phone, and get that app to work. Like, oh my god, where does that leave us as a generation coming into the world? Um, I definitely think of what I'm doing because there isn't, there aren't dream studies departments at schools. It's not, I'm trying to, I find myself trying to create books that would be good books for a class on something if there were a dream department, a dream studies department. Like someday I'm kind of imagining there will be, and these would be the kind of books that if I were a student in one of those classes, I'd probably want to have a book on this topic or that topic. So that has been kind of my imagined, motivation is like someday there'll be a dream studies department, and this will kind of give a shape to what not the be all and end all. My God, at all. I'm just I'm such a novice in my own ways. I always feel, but um, there is a sense in which we're only going to grow this field if we can carry on some of these teachings. So I would say just very briefly and specifically, I'd say it's in terms of changes. Uh, I've been dismayed at at the level of interest in lucid dreaming, which and the quality of interest, which I have problems with the rhetoric of control that's often associated with lucid dreaming. The idea of controlling your dreams, making your dreams do things, that to me is kind of reversing the flow, or it's not reversing the flow so much as turning a dialogue into a monologue. You're not listening to your dreams anymore. You're just kind of making your dreams jump through hoops, and you can do that. You can do that. I think that's less interesting than the other things that we can do when we engage with our dreams. So that's been, and I was singing that song back in the '90s, and so this is, clearly no one's listened to me. Uh, uh, I've been pleased though at how another thing I was trying to argue from very early on, that dreams have this collective social dimension of meaning, that they're about our personal lives, but they also have important things to tell us about challenges facing our communities. I think that's become more recognized. I don't feel as much kind of as much of a weirdo in making that claim. I feel like other people are recognizing that more and more, and that's great. It's kind of the anthropology of dreaming has really become more integrated into the field. Um, and then the last thing I'd say on that is like I'm a little sad at how kind of a general familiarity with the works of Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung is passing. And that's okay. There are reasons why everybody was so caught up with them for a while, and probably too much so. But I kind of came at a time when there was a kind of a shared familiarity with their text in a way that is less so now. And so that just means that's part of my teaching now. That's more of my teaching, but it's also like, I missed that a little bit. And yet that's why do we have to keep listening to these guys who wrote in the early 1900s? There should be new voices, and so that's all to the good. But I think a lot. This is a phrase that a colleague of mine developed years back. I want to be on the lookout for disciplinary amnesia, how fields of study can forget their ancestors, forget their lineage, forget earlier debates or things that people worked out that could be really relevant now if you weren't amnesic about it. So yeah, maybe that's how I'd wrap that up. Is like I am thinking about kind of the generational stretch in both directions and trying to be a good conduit, you know,
Hmm.
good through line, one might say.
Yeah, through line. Yeah, dream through line. Oh, I hear you about lucid dreaming. I had a very freaky lucid dream where I really was like, I woke up and I'm like, am I like, what's going on here? Am I in a dream? But yeah, that's really great to hear because I would have heard I haven't heard anything else. Like I haven't heard someone say, "Ah, are you sure you'd like maybe it's not such a great idea to control your lucid dream state." And yeah, I hear you about like still trying to remember those voices throughout time, however far back um to like yeah, remember the roots and the just the lineage, the dream lineages. Um, gosh, so grateful. Just so grateful. And my last question is, I noticed that you're building a physical dream library, which sounds really exciting. And I wonder if you could tell us more about that.
Yeah. No, this is again kind of one of these things that I feel I'm called to do. My wife and I own some land in a kind of foresty area outside of Portland that uh, has been beaten up over the years. Different misbehavior. We had to get the sheriff involved with the final tenants of the property. It was kind of a Breaking Bad situation, let's say, but it's a beautiful place. And over the years, several people, elders actually, who have passed away, their children. I'm thinking specifically of Jeremy Taylor and Patricia Garfield. People were very influential on me and many people in the field. They pass away, and their children are like, what are we going to do with all their books and their journals? And nobody wants them, and so they come to me, and I'm kind of the stop at last resort for what I think are these just incredibly precious documents. For both Patty and Jeremy, their dream journals go back to like the early 1960s. Like 50-year long dream journals from these amazing people,
Wow.
like big dreamers. Those shouldn't just go in a dumpster, So I've been storing them for the past few years, and slowly but surely building like a big barn, basically, that will a barn with bookshelves that will be a storage archive, basically, for these books and my own books and such too. But Jeremy Taylor's books, like there were a lot of books. There were like, yeah, a lot of books. When I said I said yes to taking care of them before I totally knew what I was getting into. But anyway, so yeah, so hopefully finishing up sometime this summer. That's the hope. If we can keep it moving, I'm really ready to get there. And And there'll be events there and things like that. I'll have people out in some form or other over time for sure. And I'm going to make it available to have programs of different kinds for researchers and artists and such. But yeah, that's like if I just every day I just wake up and I want to get there, get that done because that's a big one. I want to really have a physical place, not just you know online things which are great, but a place, where these materials can be preserved and just kind of give people an idea, like, oh, there's a place where people keep dream journals. Isn't that cool?
That
So,
sounds amazing.
yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Who knows what you might find in that dream library. Wait,
Exactly.
is it a library?
Well, yeah, it'll
It,
be
or
I'm calling it a library. I
oh
mean,
yeah, dream
it'll have a lot of
library.
books, a lot of books, a lot of journals, a lot of art. People doing, some of these people have artworks that they've created and are part of it. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds amazing and yeah, and exciting, yeah, I can only imagine what you'll read in there.
Yeah. No,
Um,
it'll be fun.
Yes, so exciting. I'm glad you and your wife are working on such an amazing project. I don't know what, I'm sure, I don't know. I don't know where other dream libraries are, but this is great. And I want to say thank you, Kelly,
Oh,
for
thank
meeting me
you.
at the
Well,
through line. Yeah, again, I know I keep saying it, but I really am grateful. I just emailed you and you're like, yeah, I'm interested. And so, yeah, thank you. And
no,
I want
you put out very good energy. There's no doubt. I had this was one. It's like, oh, of course I want to talk to her. This sounds like fun. Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. I'm so glad. And as I usually ask my guests, is there anything else on your heart before we end?
It's these are hard times for people who are sensitive to spiritual, cultural openness and have big hearts. So it's time to really care for each other as best we can and trust your inner core. And things change fast these days. So this too will pass. Something else is going to happen that won't always be like this. So yeah, keep dreaming and keep an open heart. Yeah.
I hear you. Keep dreaming and keep an open heart. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.